Hey guys, tonight we are going on a very different kind of adventure. We're setting aside the epic battles and grand political schemes for something much quieter, much more boring, and I mean that in the best way possible. We're going to trace the overall peaceful life of a man who has become a legend, Yasuke, the African samurai. But we're not focusing on the warrior, we're focusing on the person, the quiet observer, the man who found himself in one of the most tumultuous and alien worlds imaginable. This isn't a story of action, it's a story of stillness. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support is what keeps these late-night history trips going. And while you're at it, let me know your city and what time it is for you right now in the comments below. I love seeing where you're all listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world, for as long as you can remember, has been wood and water. For more than a year, your universe has been contained within the groaning, creaking hull of a Portuguese carry, one of the great black ships that connect the worlds. Your life is a rhythm, not of days or weeks, but of the endless, predictable rocking of the sea. Rock, crate, sway, rock, crate, sway. It has become the rhythm of your own heartbeat. A lulling motion that has long since ceased to make you sickened has instead become a form of profound, soul-minus deep boredom. You are not a sailor. You do not climb the rigging or swab the decks. You are a companion, a girl, a presence, attending the tall, imposing Jesuit missionary, Alessandro Valingano. Your duties are simple: to be near him, to be a symbol of the reach of his God and his enterprise, and to provide security. But on the endless ocean, there is little threat, so you spend your days observing. You watch the sun rise out of a flat, empty horizon and sink into it again. You watch the changing colors of the water, from the muddy brown near the coast of India, to the deep, terrifying black of the open ocean, to the brilliant turquoise of the shallows near Macau. You watch the flying fish, like silver shards, skitter across the waves. These are the only events in your calendar. The mainstream historical fact of your journey is its sheer, mind-numbing length. To get from the Jesuit missions in India to Japan in the 16th century was an epic undertaking, a multi-stage voyage that could take a year or more, with long stops in ports to wait for the right trade winds. For you, it has been an eternity of waiting. You are a giant on this ship of smaller men. Your height and the color of your skin make you a constant curiosity to the rough Portuguese sailors. But the novelty has worn off. They now mostly leave you alone. Their shouted conversations in a language you've learned to pass but not to speak, washing over you like the spray from the bell. You spend hours leaning against the rail, feeling the sun on your skin, a familiar warmth in a world of alien sensations. The smell is always the same: salt, tar, damp wood, and the faint, unpleasant odor of the bilge. And in these long, quiet hours, your mind drifts. Where did you come from? You have memories, but they are like watercolor paintings left out in the rain. A flash of a hot sun, the taste of a certain fruit, the sound of a language that feels like home in your mouth. Was it Mozambique, as the Portuguese who first hired you claimed? Or Ethiopia, with its ancient Christian traditions, which might explain your connection to the Jesuits? Or perhaps further north, from the lands of the Funday Sultanate in what is now Sudan? This is the central question that historians still debate to this day. Your origins are a mystery, recorded by no one. On this ship, you are a man without a past, defined only by your towering presence and your association with the men in black robes. You are simply Yasuke, a name given to you along the way. Here's a piece of quiet, boring trivia about this life: your diet. It's a monotonous cycle of ship's biscuit, yes. Our old friend, hardtack salted fish, and rice, sometimes flavored with a little bit of pork fat if the cook is feeling generous. It's a diet of pure function, meant to prevent starvation, not to provide pleasure. You become adept at the quiet rituals of making it edible, just like the sailors, soaking, waiting, chewing without thought. It is the taste of the journey, the taste of monotony itself. Valingain, no and the other priests have their own routines. They pray, they read from heavy, leather-bound books, and they study maps. Sometimes, the Italian priest tries to teach you things. He points to the maps, showing you the shape of Africa, Europe, and this strange, crescent-shaped island. They are so desperate to reach Japan. He speaks of it as a land of sophisticated culture, of fierce warriors, and of millions of souls to be saved. To you, it's just a word, a destination at the end of this endless water. You are not their convert, not really. You respect their faith, their conviction, but their God is a quiet, indoor God, a God of books and whispered prayers. The gods you remember, however faintly, were in the sun, the river, the sky. Still, you find a strange comfort in the drone of their Latin chants. It's another layer in the ship's constant song, the creak of the wood, the snap of the sails, the rush of the water, the murmur of prayer. It all blends into a single, hypnotic sound, the sound of waiting, the sound of your life. For now, rock, crate, sway, the shore is still months away. The smell hits you first. It's not the familiar, rank odor of a European or Indian port, that chaotic mixture of sewage, livestock, and unwashed humanity. This is different. It's a clean, subtle, and altogether strange collection of scents. The sharp, savory smell of grilled fish, the earthy aroma of damp, wooden whetstone, the faint, almost floral perfume of incense that drifts from a temple you cannot see. This is your first impression of Japan. Not an image, but a smell. After what feels like a lifetime at sea, the ship has finally dropped anchor in the port of Kuchi no Tsu. You've been rowed ashore with Father Valingaino, and you now stand on a street in a world made of wood, paper, and tile. Everything seems both incredibly fragile and intensely orderly. The houses are low and dark, with elegant, curving roofs, instead of glass windows. There are translucent paper screens that glow from within. The street isn't a muddy, chaotic mess. It's made of dull, packed earth, swept clean. Your presence causes an immediate sensation, but it's not the loud, boisterous curiosity you've encountered in other ports. Here, it's a silent, wide-ida. People stop what they are doing. A woman carrying a basket freezes mid-stride. A group of men working on a fishing net simply stop and stare. Their mouths are slightly agape. You're used to being an object of attention. But this is different. It's quieter, more intense. They don't point and shout. They whisper. They bow their heads slightly, as if you are not a man, but an apparition, a spirit, a minor deity who has just walked off the waves. This is the central historical reality of your arrival. You are arguably the first person with African skin that most of these people have ever seen. In the cosmology of 16th century Japan, the world was a small, well-ordered place. There were the people of Japan, the people of China, and the pale, hairy southern barbarians, Nanban like the Portuguese. Though you do not fit into any of these categories. You are a walking, breathing impossibility. Your height alone would make you a giant, but your skin, a deep, rich black, makes you something else entirely, something otherworldly. As you walk behind Valingaino through the narrow streets towards the small Jesuit mission, a crowd follows at a respectful distance. It's a silent parade. The only sound is the soft shuffling of their straw sandals on the earth and a constant, low murmur of whispers. You feel hundreds of eyes on you, but when you turn your head, they quickly look away, hiding their faces behind their sleeves, a gesture of polite deference that feels incredibly strange. You pass a small shrine, where a man is lighting a stick of incense. He sees you, and his hand freezes. He gives a short, sharp bell, not to Valingaino, but to you. This is a weird and fascinating piece of trivia. In some early encounters, the Japanese associated dark skin with divinity, one of the 7 lucky gods. Daikoku-ten, the god of wealth and prosperity, was often depicted with a dark or black face. To some of the people who saw you, your appearance might not have been just foreign. It might have been auspicious. a sign of good fortune. You are not just a man. You are a lucky charm. You finally reach the Jesuit compound, a simple wooden building behind a bamboo fence. As the gate closes behind you, shutting out the silent, staring crowd, you can finally breathe. You stand in a small, meticulously raked gravel garden. The silence here is profound. It's a managed, intentional silence, so different from the constant noise of the ship. This is where the historical debate begins. What was your status at this point? The Portuguese and Jesuit records are maddeningly vague. Valentino was an aristocrat, and it was common for men of his station to have attendants and bodyguards. But were you a slave? An indentured servant? A free man working for a wage? The term home mdik or man of color is used, but it's ambiguous. Some historians, focusing on the transactional nature of the era, argue you must have been enslaved, your personhood legally owned by the mission. Others argue that Valentino, who is known for his relatively progressive views on cultural adaptation, may have treated you more as a personal retainer, a free man in his service. Your legal status, your very freedom, is a question mark, lost in the margins of a missionary-esque report. You are shown to a small, clean room. There is no bed, only a thick, woven tatami mat on the floor and a hard block that you assume is a pillow. An old Japanese woman in a simple kimono brings you a bowl of rice and some pickled vegetables. She doesn't look at you directly. She places the bowl on the floor, bows deeply, and shuffles out. Her movements are small, precise ballet. Use it on the mat, which smells of dry grass. The food is bland, but clean minus tasty. Through the paper screen of your window, you can still hear the faint murmur of the crowd that has gathered outside the mission walls, hoping for another glimpse of the black god who has come from the sea. You are, in Japan, you are an object of worship, a source of wonder, a legal ambiguity. You are 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people. But here, in this quiet room, chewing on your rice, you're just a man, at the end of a very long journey, trying to understand the rules of a world that makes no sense at all. The journey to the capital is a slow, walking dream. For weeks, you travel with Valentino's procession along the Tokuto Road, the great artery connecting the port cities to the heart of Japan. The silent R that greeted you at the coast has now become a full minus-blown phenomenon. At every village and town, your arrival causes a near-minus riot, but it's a polite riot. People press forward, their faces a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Some are trampled in the crush, not out of aggression, but out of a desperate need to see you. The giant, dark-minus-skinned man they call Kuro-Bozu, the Black Priest. The news of your existence has traveled faster than you have. It has reached the ears of the most powerful man in Japan, the great unifier, Oda Nobunaga. He is a figure of immense and terrifying reputation, a warlord who has spent his life crushing his enemies with ruthless efficiency. He is also a man known for his insatiable curiosity, particularly for the strange things brought by the southern barbarians. He has demanded an audience. He wants to see the Jesuits. And more importantly, he wants to see you. You arrive in Kyoto, the imperial capital. It's a vast, sprawling city of wooden temples and palaces. You are escorted to the Hano-G temple, where Nobunaga is currently holding court. The air here is thick with a tension you can feel in your bones. Samurai in lacquered armor and elaborate helmets stand like statues in the courtyards, their faces impassive. Their eyes follow you. But it's a different kind of stare than the peasants' awe. It's a cold, appraising look, the look of a warrior sizing up a potential threat. You are led into a large, open room with paper screens and tatami floors. At the far end, sitting on a raised platform, is a man. He is not large or physically imposing. He is weary and intense, with a thin mustache and eyes that seem to burn with a restless, impatient energy. This is Oda Nobunaga. This is the central historical moment of your early life in Japan, recorded in several contemporary accounts. Valentino begins his formal greetings, but Nobunaga's attention is entirely on you. He beckons you forward. You approach and bow, as you have been instructed. He circles you, his eyes taking in your height, the muscles in your arms, the texture of your skin. He is not looking at you like a man, but like a fascinating object, a rare animal. Then, he does something extraordinary. He speaks, and a translator relays his words. He does not believe your skin is real. He thinks the Jesuits have painted you with ink as some kind of elaborate prank. He orders his attendants to bring water and cloths. He is going to wash you. What follows is one of the most bizarre and humiliating moments of your life. You are made to strip to the waist in the middle of the temple, in front of the most powerful warlord in the country and his retinue of stone minus-faced samurai. Attendants, their hands trembling slightly, begin to scrub your skin. They rub your arm, your chest, your back. You stand there, a giant statue, enduring the indignity. The water runs clear. The cloths come away clean. Your skin is your skin. This strange event is a famous piece of historical trivia, but it's worth pausing on the sheer absurdity of it. It's a moment of profound cultural collision. Nabugaba, a man of immense power and sophistication, simply cannot process your existence. His worldview has no category for you, so he defaults to the only explanation he can imagine: trickery. He must test reality itself because the evidence of his own eyes is too fantastic to be believed. Finally, convinced, Nabugaba stops the scrubbing. He laughs, a shrill, barking sound that echoes in the quiet room. He is delighted. You are real. This incredible thing from a world away is real. In that moment, his perception of you shifts. You are no longer just a curiosity. You are a treasure. He is so impressed by your strength, your composure, and your novelty that he does something unprecedented. He requests, or, more accurately, demands that you leave the service of the Jesuits and enter his. Valingeno, ever the pragmatist, agrees. He knows that having a man in Nobugaba's inner circle is an invaluable asset for his mission. And so, in the space of an afternoon, your life is appended. You arrived at the temple as a missionary as attendant. You will leave as the property of a Japanese warlord. The historical debate here is a nuanced one. Did Nabugaba truly own you in the sense of a slave, or was it more of a formal transfer of fealty? Japanese society had complex systems of servitude and vassalage that don't map neatly onto Western concepts. Some historians argue that by entering Nobugaba's retinue, you were effectively manumitted and elevated to the status of a retainer, a low-ranking samurai. Nabugaba was known for promoting men based on merit, not birth, and he may have seen you as the ultimate example of this philosophy. Others contend that you remained a possession, a cherished pet whose status was entirely dependent on the whim of your master. Your humanity was secondary to your novelty. As you are led away by Nabugaba's men to be given new clothes and quarters, you glance back at Father Valingeno. He gives you a small, almost imperceptible nod. You are on your own now. You have been traded, like a rare spice or a beautiful vase. You have a new master. You are no longer the black priest. You are now Nobugaba's black man, and your life is about to become even stranger. Your new life begins with a new sound. Or rather, a sea of new sounds that wash over you. Meaningless as the cries of gulls, you are in a castle now, a labyrinth of polished wooden corridors and silent, sliding screens. You are surrounded by people, yet you have never felt more alone. You do not have the words to ask for water, to say you're tired, to ask the name of the strange, delicious smelling blossom outside your window. Your silence is a wall, isolating you in the heart of this bustling new world. Nabugaba, in his practical, impatient way, understands this. A man who cannot understand orders is a useless retainer. He assigns you a tutor, not a scholar, but a young, low-ranking samurai attendant named Kai-Tu, a boy with a quick smile and a patient demeanor. Your education begins not in a classroom, but in the course of your daily, boring routine. This is the slow, unglamorous, and historically essential process of language acquisition. It's a painstaking reconstruction of the world, one word at a time. Kai-Tu points to the bowl of rice at your meal. Go on, he says, slowly and clearly. He repeats it. You try to mimic the sound. Your tongue feels thick and clumsy, unused to the short, precise vowels. Go minus horn. Kaito grins and nods enthusiastically. You have your first word. It means both rice and meal. You file this useful ambiguity away. Your days become a living dictionary. You walk through the castle, and Kaito provides a running commentary. He points to a door. 2. He points to a sword. Kutana. He points to a dog sleeping in the sun. INU. You repeat the words, trying to lock them in your memory. The mainstream historical accounts of your life note that you learned to speak Japanese with considerable fluency in a relatively short time, but they gloss over the sheer, grinding effort this must have taken. It was a full -time job, a constant mental strain on top of the physical demands of your new role. You learn through gesture and context. When an older, high-ranking samurai enters the room, Kaito bows deeply, murmuring, "Owayo gozaimasu." You learn that this is a respectful greeting. When he hands you a cup, he says, "Please." When you hand it back, he teaches you to say, "Arigato." Thank you. These are the building blocks of your new reality. The polite, essential phrases that allow you to navigate your day without causing offense. This process provides a charming and slightly comical piece of trivia, the inevitable misunderstandings. You learn the word for water, miso, but when you try to ask for it, you get the pronunciation slightly wrong and ask for the road, michi, leaving your attendant completely bewildered. You learn the word for hot, aitsui, and try to comment on the weather, but you use it to describe your cold soup, creating a moment of surreal confusion for the cook. These small, daily failures are frustrating, but they are also how you learn. Each mistake is a lesson. The historical question that linguists and historians debate is what kind of Japanese you learned. Were you taught the formal, highly polite, and complex language of the samurai or tiger, or did you pick up the rougher, more practical slang of the soldiers and castle attendants? Given your constant proximity to Nobugaba, it's likely you were exposed to the former, but your daily interactions with men like Kaito would have grounded you in the latter. You probably ended up speaking a unique blend, a functional hybrid of high court language and common speech. Another aspect of your unique, in minus between status, your accent, your choice of words, your very patterns of speech would have been unlike anyone else's in Japan. One evening, you were standing guard outside Nobugaba's chambers. He is inside, meeting with his generals. Their voices are low, serious murmur behind the paper screen. You can't understand most of what they're saying, but you're beginning to recognize tones. You can hear the sound of anger, of deliberation, of agreement. You are learning to read the music of the language, even if you can't yet understand the lyrics. Kaito is standing with you. He is quiet tonight. You have learned enough to ask him a simple question. You look at the moon, a perfect white circle in the dark sky. You point, "Soki." You say, "The moon." It's one of the first words you learned, because it's the same moon you saw from the ship, the same moon you remember from the land of your birth. Kaito looks at the moon, then back at you. He smiles, a little sadly. He says a string of words you don't understand, but the feeling is clear. He is telling you something about the moon, a story or a poem. He is sharing a piece of his world with you. You can't understand the words, but you understand the gesture. You look back at the moon and say the only other word you can think of. Tiarii, beautiful. Kaito's smile widens. Hoi, tiarii disu. Yes, it is beautiful. You stand there in the comfortable silence, two men from different worlds, sharing a single word. It's not much, but it's a start. The wall of silence has a tiny crack in it, and through that crack, a little bit of light is starting to shine. You have been given a room. It is a sign of your new, elevated status. You are no longer sleeping in a communal barracks with the Jesuit lay-minus brothers, or the lowest minus-ranking foot soldiers. You have your own small, private space within the sprawling complex of Eizouchi Castle, Nobugaba's magnificent new fortress on the shores of Lake Biwa. But this private space, this marker of honor, is also a source of quiet, daily confusion. Your new home is an exercise in unfamiliar comforts. The room is beautiful in its simplicity. The floors are covered in pale, sweet-smelling tatami mats, woven from rice straw. The walls are paper screens, or shoti, that slide open to reveal a small, enclosed garden with a single, twisted pine tree and a few awfully placed rocks. There is no furniture, no bed, no chair, no table, just the empty, serene space. For a man of your size, a man accustomed to the solid, heavy furniture of European-influenced quarters, it feels like living inside a doll's house. A very elegant, very empty doll's house. The first night is a lesson in awkwardness. You are given a futon, a thin cotton mattress, to lay directly on the tatami floor. You are used to sleeping on a raised cot or bed frame. As you lie down, the floor feels unnerving and close. You stretch out, and your feet, accustomed to hanging off the edge of a 2- small bed, press against the paper screen of the wall. You are terrified you will kick a hole through it in your seat. The pillow is ayamakura, a small, rectangular block filled with buckwheat hulls. It's designed to support the neck, not cradle the head, especially for those with the elaborate hairstyles of the Japanese nobility. For you, it feels like trying to sleep on a small, unyielding brick. You spend the night shifting, turning, trying to find a position that isn't a form of low-grade torture. This is the central, mundane historical reality of your integration. It was just about learning a language or a new code of honor. It was about retraining your body to exist in a different kind of space. It was about learning a new physical vocabulary of sitting, sleeping, and moving. Then there are the clothes. You are presented with a fine set of kimono. They are made of dark blue silk, a sign of Nobugabaya's favor, but learning to wear them is a daily struggle. A kimono is not just a robe. It's a complex, layered garment held together by a specific system of sashes and ties, culminating in the wide belt called an obi. An attendant has to help you dress every morning, a slightly embarrassing ritual. The robe is restrictive, designed for small, shuffling steps, not yolo, powerful stride. You feel clumsy and constrained, as if you are bound in silken ropes. The traditional footwear, the zori or gete straw sandals or wooden clogs, are made for feet much smaller than yours. A craftsman has to be specially commissioned to make a pair that fits you. A small but significant piece of historical trivia that highlights your unique status and the practical problems your presence created. You learn the art of sitting seizei in a style on your heels, the formal way to sit on a tatami mat. For the Japanese, who have done it since childhood, it is a posture of restful alertness. For you, with your long legs and unaccustomed joints, it is agony. After a few minutes, your feet fall asleep, and then your legs begin to burn with a fiery pain. You watch with a mixture of awe and envy as samurai can sit like this for hours during meetings, perfectly still and serene. You, on the other hand, are fighting a silent, internal battle against the screaming protest of your own body. This constant, low-level physical discomfort raises a historical question that is often overlooked in the grand narrative of your life. How did these daily physical and cultural challenges affect you psychologically? Did the constant awkwardness, the feeling of being a giant in a world built for smaller people, enhance your sense of isolation? Or did the process of adapting, of slowly mastering the art of sleeping on the floor and sitting without wincing, give you a sense of accomplishment and belonging? The historical records, written by others, speak of your strength and your status, but they are silent on the quiet, personal struggle of simply learning how to be comfortable in your own home. Did you ever truly feel at ease? Or was your entire life in Japan a performance of fitting in? One afternoon, you are sitting in your room, attempting to meditate in the way you've seen the other samurai do. You are not very good at it. Your mind wanders. The pain in your knees is a loud distraction. You give up and simply look out at your little garden. A gentle rain has begun to fall. The soft, whispering sound on the roof tiles and the leaves of the pine tree. The air grows cool and smells of wet earth. You slide open the paper screen. You lie down on your side on the tatami, your head propped on your hand, a position that is finally comfortable. You watch the rain. You watch the water darken the grey rocks and drip from the pine needles. The world shrinks to this small, framed view. The castle, the warlord, the politics, your duties, they all fall away. There is only the rain, the tree, the rocks, and the quiet, rhythmic sound. For the first time since arriving in this strange new home, you feel a moment of pure, uncomplicated peace. It's not the comfort you were used to. It's a new kind, a quieter kind. You are learning that comfort is not just about a soft bed or an easy chair. Sometimes, it's just about finding the right way to look at the rain. You close your eyes, listening to the gentle drumming on the roof, and for the first time, you begin to feel something like at home. One morning, you are summoned before Nobugaba. This is not unusual. You are often required to be in his presence, but today feels different. There is a sense of ceremony in the air. 2 of his highest-ranking retainers are present, and on a low, lacquered stand in front of them lies a matched pair of swords. You know what they are. You have seen them on the hip of every samurai in the castle. The long, curved katana, the shorter, companion sword, the wakazayas. Together, they are the day's whole, literally big minus little. They are more than weapons. They are the undeniable, sacred symbol of the samurai class. To wear the day's hoe is to wear your identity, your honor, and your right to be a member of the ruling elite. It is a privilege granted by a lord to his most trusted vassals. Nobugaba speaks, his voice clear and formal. A translator, standing nervously nearby, relays the meaning. In recognition of your loyalty and your unique strength, you are being granted the status of a samurai. You are to be given a stipend, a place in his retinue, and the right to wear these swords. This is the central, spectacular historical fact of your life. A foreigner, a man of unknown birth and black skin, is being formally inducted into the most exclusive warrior class in the world. It is a shocking, revolutionary act on Nobugaba's part, a clear signal to his other retainers that loyalty and ability matter more to him than bloodline or tradition. For you, it is a moment of dizzying transformation. You are no longer just a curiosity or a bodyguard. You are a samurai. An attendant helps you gird the swords to your hip, sliding them through the obi of your kimono. They are heavy, not just physically, but metaphorically. You can feel the weight of them, a heavy, constant pressure against your side. It is the weight of expectation, of duty, of 1,000 years of tradition that you have just been grafted onto. You stand there, a towering African man dressed in a silk kimono, wearing the soul of Japan at your side. It is a beautiful, terrifying, and profoundly weird moment, but the glamour of the moment quickly fades, replaced by the boring, daily reality of the soul. You quickly learn that the days hoe are not just for fighting. They are a constant responsibility, a companion that requires daily care and attention. This is the overlooked, mundane trivia of the samurai life. The sword is not a tool you pick up when you need it. It is a part of you that must be tended to. You are taught the ritual of sword maintenance. At the end of the day, you must take a soft, clean cloth of rice paper nujiyu, igami, and carefully wipe down the length of the blade to remove any dust or moisture that could lead to rust. You learn to handle the blade with extreme care, never touching the polished steel with your bare hands, as the oils from your skin can tarnish it. You are given a small pouch containing a fist-sized ball of silk filled with a fine, abrasive powder uchiko. You tap this ball gently along the blade, depositing a light dusting of the powder, which you then wipe off to give the steel its brilliant, almost liquid sheen. The process is slow, repetitive, and meditative. It requires focus and a steady hand. You spend hours practicing. Your large hands, which could crush a man's skull, learning to perform these delicate, precise movements. It is, in its own way, a form of communication with the soul. You learn the feel of it, the balance of it, the almost imperceptible curve of the blade. This daily ritual raises a historical question that sword historians and cultural anthropologists debate. What was the true nature of the samurai's relationship with his soul? Was the popular notion of the soul of the samurai a literal belief, a form of animism where the sword was seen to have its own spirit, Or was it more of a metaphor for the samurai's own honor, which had to be kept as clean and polished as his blade? The intricate, almost loving care given to the swords suggests a relationship that went far beyond that of a simple tool. By cleaning your sword every day, you are not just preventing rust, you are polishing your own soul, reaffirming your commitment to the code of the warrior. But for you, the swords are also a practical music. You have to learn how to move with them, how to see, how to pass through a narrow doorway without the long scabbard sei getting caught. You learn the etiquette of entering a room, where you are expected to remove the long sword and place it on a rack as a sign of peaceful intent. You, a man who already felt too large for this world, now have an extra 3 feet of wooden steel to account for with every movement. You are a samurai. You have the swords to prove it. But as you sit in your room, carefully wiping down the cold, gleaming steel of your katana, the reality is less glorious than you might have imagined. It's a quiet, domestic task. It's a chore. You have been given the soul of the samurai, and you have discovered that it is something that needs to be dusted daily, like a piece of furniture. The weight at your hip is a constant reminder of who you are supposed to be, but the quiet work of maintaining it is a reminder of the simple, boring truth of that life. It is a life of responsibility, of repetition, and of endless, careful polishing. You are a bodyguard. This is your primary function, the reason Nabugaba keeps you close. But the life of a samurai bodyguard, you quickly discover, is not one of constant, thrilling action. It is not a series of dramatic duels and daring rescues. The reality is far more mundane. The art of being a bodyguard is, for the most part, the art of standing still. Your days are measured in long, silent stretches of profound boredom. You stand for hours. You stand outside the sliding paper screen of Nobugaba's audience chamber while he holds his councils of war. You can hear the murmur of voices, the occasional sharp laugh or angry exclamation, but you see nothing. Your job is to be a presence, a deterrent, a human wall of muscle and steel. You stand in the corner of the room while Nabugaba practices his calligraphy, his brush flying across the paper with intense concentration. You stand behind him while he plays Go with a visiting lord. The quiet, strategic click of the stones on the board, the only sound in the room for hours on end. Your job is to be invisible, to merge with the shadows, to exist only as a potential for violence that is almost never realized. This is the central, unglamorous historical truth about the role of a samurai retainer in a lord's court. While they were all trained warriors, their daily existence was often one of routine and waiting. The real work was not fighting, but being ready to fight at a moment's notice. This required a kind of discipline that was more mental than physical. It was the discipline of patience. To pass the time, you practice the art of observation. You learn to read the castle as a living organism. You know the guards by the sound of their footsteps. You can distinguish the soft shuffle of a court lady from the firm, deliberate stride of a samurai. You learn the subtle signals of the quarter glance held a second too long, a bow that is not quite deep enough, a fan snapped shut with a little too much force. These are the real battles of the castle, the quiet, bloodless struggles for favor and influence. You become a connoisseur of stillness. You watch a spider spin its web in the rafters, a process that takes an entire afternoon. You watch the light move across the tatami floor, a slow, golden river marking the passage of the day. You study the grain of the wooden pillar you stand beside, tracing its lines and whirls with your eyes until you've memorized every inch of it. This is your world. A world of minute details, of slow time, of intense, focused, and utterly boring observation. This experience leads to a peculiar piece of physiological trivia. Elite guards and sentinels, both thin and now, often learn to enter a state of relaxed awareness. It's a kind of meditative state where the mind is calm and receptive, but not drowsy. They learn to power down on minus essential functions while keeping their senses on high alert. You learn to do this instinctively. You can stand for hours, seemingly at rest, but the slightest unexpected sound, a footstep out of place, a screen sliding open when it should be closed, will bring you to full, coiled alertness in a fraction of a second. You are a human alarm system, and your default setting is a quiet, patient home. The historical debate among military historians is about the effectiveness of this kind of personal security. In a world of poison, political assassination, and surprise attacks, was a single bodyguard, however skilled, truly a deterrent, or was it more of a status symbol? Some argued that the primary role of a lord's personal guard was theatrical. It was about projecting an aura of power and inviolability. The constant presence of imposing figures like you was an ominous verbal statement. I am so important. I require men of this caliber to do nothing but stand near me. Others argue for its practical value. An attack on a lord often comes from within his own retinue. A man like you, a complete outsider with no family ties, no historical allegiances, and a fierce personal loyalty to the man who gave you everything, was the one person Nobunaga could trust implicitly. You were the ultimate loyalist because you had no one else to be loyal to. One hot afternoon, you were on duty in one of the castle's gardens. Nobunaga is napping in a nearby pavilion. Your job is to ensure his rest is not disturbed. The only sound is the drone of cicadas. Piercing bars that seems to make the air thicker. You are standing beside a large stone lantern, trying not to let the heat and the hypnotic sound lull you into a stupor. You focus on a single KOI fish in the pond. It is a brilliant orange and white, a living jewel hanging in the green, murky water. It moves with an incredible economy of motion, a slight flick of its tail propelling it forward, its fins barely twitching. It hovers, it turns, it glides. It exists in a state of perfect, fluid grace. It does nothing, yet it is completely alive, completely aware. You watch the fish for what feels like an hour. Its patient, graceful movements are a lesson. This is what you must be, calm on the surface, but ready to move with explosive speed, doing nothing, but seeing everything. You are the fish in the pond. You are the stone lantern. You are a part of the scenery, the quiet, watchful element in the warlord's world. The excitement, the glory, the action, that is 4 stories. The reality, you now know, is the long, slow, and incredibly boring art of simply being there. You receive an invitation. It is not a command or an order, but a polite, formal request delivered on a small, thick piece of rice paper. You are invited to attend a tea ceremony, a Chanoyu, hosted by Sen no or Iku, the most revered tea master in all of Japan. You learn that such an invitation is a tremendous honor, a sign that you are being accepted into the highest and most refined circles of Nobugaga's court. You also learn that it will be an afternoon of profound, ritualized boredom. You are vaguely familiar with tea. The Portuguese merchants and Jesuit priests often drank it, but you soon discover that what they drank has as much in common with a Japanese tea ceremony as a loud dockside tavern has with a silent cathedral. You arrive at the tea house, a small, rustic, almost shabby-looking hut set within a secluded part of the castle gardens. You have to stoop to enter through a tiny, low doorway called Anichi Ariguchi. This, you are told, is intentional. It forces every guest, from the lowest samurai to the lord himself, to humble themselves, to enter on their hands and knees, leaving their rank and their swords, and in your case, your towering height outside. The room inside is tiny, perhaps only 4.5 otomi mats. It is sparsely decorated with a single scroll of calligraphy on the wall and a simple vase holding one perfect flower. The light filtering through the paper screens is soft and subdued. The silence is absolute. There are only 2 other guests, high-ranking samurai who nod to you gravely. You all sit in the painful I position, your knees protesting silently. This is the setting for the mainstream historical practice of the Japanese tea ceremony. It was not just about drinking tea. It was a spiritual discipline, a form of active meditation heavily influenced by Zen Buddhism. The goal was to find beauty in simplicity, tranquility in the midst of a violent world, and a moment of pure, shared experience between the host and the guests. For the samurai class, it was a vital counterpoint to their lives of warfare and political intrigue. Then, the host enters. Sen no Arikeyu is an old, unassuming man with a serene face and graceful, deliberate movements. Every gesture he makes is precise, economical, and imbued with a sense of deep meaning. He bows, and the ceremony begins. It unfolds with the slow, inexorable pace of a glacier. You watch as Riku performs the ritual of preparing the tea. This is the heart of the ceremony. Every object the bamboo is chastened, the tea scooped as hako. The iron kettle koma is handled with a reverence usually reserved for religious relics. He purifies each utensil with a silk cloth, fukai, folding and unfolding it in a series of complex, balletic movements. He scoops the bright green powdered match, tea, into a simple, beautiful ceramic bowl choan. He ladles hot water from the kettle, the only sound in the room being the gentle hiss of the steam. Then he whisks the tea, his wrist moving with a speed that blurs the motion, until a frothy, emerald-green foam forms on the surface. The whole process takes an eternity. Your legs are on fire. Your mind, accustomed to the need for constant vigilance, screams for something, anything, to happen. But nothing happens. There is only the quiet, repetitive, and deeply boring ritual of making a single bowl of tea. This leads to a quiet and esoteric piece of trivia. The tea bowls themselves were often the most valuable objects in the room. Some were old, imperfect, rustic-looking bowls that had been made by famous potters centuries ago. A powerful warlord might trade an entire province for a single, celebrated tea bowl. The aesthetic was called wabi-sabi, the appreciation of the imperfect, the impermanent, and the incomplete. It was a sophisticated philosophy that found profound beauty in things that are Western, I might see as flawed or broken. The simple, slightly lopsided bowl you will soon drink from could be worth more than your life. Finally, the tea is ready. The bowl is presented to the first guest, who admires it, turns it a prescribed number of times, and then takes a sip. He compliments the host on the excellence of the tea. Then the bowl is cleaned and the process is repeated for the next guest, and then for you. When the bowl is placed before you, you mimic the movements you have seen. You bow, you lift the bowl, you turn it, you take a sip. The tea is unlike anything you have ever tasted. It is thick, grassy, and intensely bitter. It coats your tongue with a flavor that is both vegetal and earthy. It is not a pleasant taste, not in the way that something sweet is pleasant. It is a challenging taste, a complex taste. It is the taste of the ceremony itself, austere, serious, and demanding of your full attention. The historical debate here among scholars of Japanese culture is about the ultimate purpose of the tea ceremony in this period. Was it a genuine spiritual practice, a retreat from the world, or was it a highly sophisticated political tool? A warlord like Nobunaga could use a tea ceremony to display his wealth and refinement, to honor his allies, and to intimidate his rivals. Being invited to a tea ceremony was a sign of favor, but every gesture, every word, every object was laden with political meaning. Was this quiet room a sanctuary from politics, or its most subtle and dangerous theater? You finish your tea. A small, sweet cake is served to counteract the bitterness. There is some quiet, formal conversation that you barely understand. And then, it is over. You bow. You crawl back out through the tiny door into the real world. The entire experience lasted maybe an hour, but it felt like a year. You walk back through the gardens, your legs stiff and clumsy. You do not feel enlightened or spiritually refreshed. You feel mostly confused and relieved that the ordeal of sitting still is over. You have participated in one of the highest art forms of this new culture. You have been on it, and you have discovered that, in Japan, even the act of drinking a beverage can be a form of profound, disciplined, and exquisite boredom. Your life is governed by a new rhythm, and that rhythm is dictated by a new diet. You are a samurai in the service of a great lord, and you eat what the castle provides. The memory of the hard-tack and salted fish of the ship now seems like a distant, brutish nightmare. But the food of Japan, while infinitely fresher, presents its own set of quiet, daily challenges. It is a universe of subtle flavors, strange textures, and confusing rules. A typical meal is a masterpiece of visual arrangement. It arrives on a small, personal lacquer tray. There are multiple small bowls, each containing a different item. There is a bowl of steaming white rice, the cornerstone of every meal. There is a bowl of soup, usually a clear broth suimono or a cloudy miso soup, with a few pieces of tofu or seaweed floating within. There is a small portion of grilled fish, perhaps with a little grated daikon radish on the side. And there are several even smaller bowls containing tsuke imono pickled vegetables, a slice of pickled ginger, a few pieces of fermented cabbage, a single sour plum uemi boshai. This is the fundamental historical reality of the traditional Japanese diet, or was hoku. It was based on the principle of 5 colors, 5 tastes, 5 ways. It aimed for a balance of black, white, red, green, and yellow, a balance of sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and the elusive 5th taste, umari, and a balance of cooking methods like grilling, steaming, simmering, and pickling. It was a sophisticated and healthy way of eating, but for a palate accustomed to the hearty, singular flavors of African or European cooking, it could feel empty. You learn to eat with chopsticks. This is your first and most difficult hurdle. Your large hands, accustomed to a simple spoon or the utility of your own fingers, struggle to manipulate the 2 delicate sticks of bamboo. You spend frustrating meals chasing a single grain of rice around your bowl, or watching a slippery piece of tofu slide from your grasp. The other samurai, who have used chopsticks since they were children, handle them with the effortless grace of a surgeon holding a scalpel. You feel like a clumsy child, fumbling and awkward. The quiet, patient kite spends hours with you, correcting your grip, showing you how to pivot the sticks to pick up a single bean. The flavors are a constant puzzle. The food is rarely spicy or heavily seasoned. The taste comes from the inherent quality of the ingredients themselves, or from subtle enhancers like soy sauce, dashi, a broth made from kelp and bonito flakes, and miso, fermented soybean paste. You find yourself craving a bold, powerful flavor, the heat of a chili, the strong taste of roasted meat, the heavy sweetness of molasses. Instead, you are presented with the quiet taste of a perfectly steamed mushroom, the clean flavor of a piece of raw fish sashimi, the delicate sweetness of a lotus root. It's a diet that whispers, when you are used to a diet that shouts. This brings you to a piece of weird and specific culinary trivia: the fear of meat. While fish was a staple, the consumption of four-legged animals was, for a long time, a taboo in Japan due to Buddhist prescriptions against taking life. While this was beginning to change in the warrior class during the 16th century, they believed it gave them strength. Beef, turd, and game were still rarities, often consumed as a form of medicine rather than a regular meal. A man like Nobunaga might eat wild boar or crane on occasion, but the daily diet, even for a powerful lord, was largely pescatarian and plant-based. Your previous life, where a large portion of roasted meat was a sign of a good meal, is a distant memory. You also discover the concept of umari, the savory 5th taste, though you don't have a word for it. You just know that the dashi broth, while looking like simple, clear water, has a deep, satisfying, and almost meaty flavor that lingers on the palate. This taste, which comes from the glutamates in the seaweed and fermented fish flakes, is the secret foundation of much of Japanese cooking. It's what makes the food satisfying, even without the heavy fats and seasonings you are used to. The historical debate among food historians is how much the arrival of the Portuguese influenced the Japanese diet. The Portuguese introduced new ingredients and cooking techniques, a style of cooking that came to be known as Nanban minus or Yuri Southern Barbarian cuisine. They brought new vegetables like potatoes and corn, and, most famously, the technique of deep minus frying in batter, which would eventually evolve into the iconic Japanese dish, tempura. They also brought refined sugar, leading to the creation of new kinds of sweets like castella, a sponge cake still popular in Japan today. Were these new, bold flavors a welcome shock to the system, or were they viewed with suspicion by culinary purists? The truth is likely a bit of both. Nobunaga, with his love of all things foreign and new, probably delighted in these exotic tastes. You, on the other hand, might have found them to be a comforting reminder of a world you had left behind. One evening, a special dish is served. It is a bowl of rice topped with a raw egg and a splash of soy sauce. You are instructed to whip it all together into a warm, creamy, savory porridge. It looks strange, even alarming, but you are hungry, and you do as you are told. You take a bite. It's simple, it's comforting, and it's surprisingly delicious. The salty soy sauce, the rich egg yolk, the warm rice, it all comes together in a perfect, harmonious balance. It's not a feast, it's not exciting, but it's good. You are beginning to understand. This food is not about overwhelming the senses. It's about soothing them. It is a quiet food for a quiet, disciplined life. You pick up your chopsticks, and with a movement that is starting to feel less awkward and more natural, you take another bite. You are learning the language of the Japanese table, one quiet, subtle flavor at a time. In the midst of the rigid discipline, the endless waiting, and the constant, low-level stress of being a perpetual outsider, you find an unexpected sanctuary. It is not in the training dojo or the audience hall. It is in the gardens. Uchi Castle is as much a work of art as it is a fortress, and its gardens are the most peaceful and perplexing parts of that art. You have seen gardens before. The Jesuit missions had their cloister gardens, neat and orderly plots of herbs and flowers. The Portuguese governors had their opulent courtyards, overflowing with bright, tropical blooms. But these Japanese gardens are different. They are not about showcasing a collection of plants. They are about creating a feeling. They are landscapes in miniature, designed for contemplation, not for strolling. Your favorite is a chaos Ansui, a dry landscape garden. It is a deceptively simple rectangle of fine, white, raked gravel, punctuated by a handful of large, moss-covered stones of varying sizes. There are no flowers, no trees, no water, just sand on stone. At first, it looked barren to you, empty and lifeless, a waste of space, but you have started to understand its secret language. This is a central piece of historical and philosophical knowledge in Japanese aesthetics. The chaos Ansui is an abstract representation of nature. The white gravel is not sand. It is the ocean, or a great river. The meticulously raked lines are the waves, the ripples on the water surface. The large stones are not rocks. They are islands, or mountains rising from the sea. It is a garden that takes place more in the mind of the viewer than on the ground. It requires you to participate, to use your imagination to complete the picture. You find yourself spending your rare moments of free time here. You sit on the wooden veranda of the pavilion that overlooks the garden, and you just look. You are not required to do anything. No one expects anything of you. Here, your size, your skin, your strange accent, they are all irrelevant. You are just an observer, and the garden is your silent companion. You watch as the gardeners, two old men who move with a quiet, practiced grace, tend to it. The raking of the gravel is a daily ritual, a form of meditation. They use a large wooden rake to create the patterns, long, flowing lines of waves that twirl around the stone islands. Their movements are slow, focused, and perfect. The final result is a picture of serene, flowing motion that is, paradoxically, created from complete stillness. This leads to a weird and wonderful piece of trivia about these gardens, the borrowed scenery, or shakei. The garden is not meant to be a self-contained unit. It is designed to incorporate the landscape beyond its walls, the distant mountains, the trees of the surrounding forest, even the sky and the clouds, are considered a part of the garden's composition. The wall of the garden acts like a picture frame, framing the natural world beyond and making it a part of the art. It's a philosophy that sees no boundary between the created and the natural, the inside and the outside. As you use it, you find your mind, usually so busy trying to translate, to understand, to be vigilant, begins to quiet down. You follow the lines in the gravel with your eyes. You study the shapes of the rocks, the patches of dark green moss clinging to their sides. You notice how the light changes the garden's appearance throughout the day. In the morning, the shadows of the rocks are long and sharp. At midday, they almost disappear. In the evening, the whole garden seems to glow with a soft, silvery light. The historical debate here among art historians and philosophers is about the true meaning of these Zen gardens. Are they purely abstract works of art, exercises in form and composition, or are they spiritual tools, designed to help monks and samurai achieve a state of enlightenment, or satori? Some scholars argue they are intellectual puzzles, representing complex Buddhist allegories or famous landscapes from Chinese poetry. Others argue for a more intuitive, emotional interpretation, believing the gardens are meant to evoke a direct, no-verbal feeling of peace, tranquility, and the ephemeral nature of existence. For you, sitting here, the intellectual argument is meaningless. All you know is the feeling. It is quiet, it is peaceful, and it works. One afternoon, you see a single red maple leaf fall from a tree outside the garden wall. It drifts on the wind and lands on the pure white gravel, a tiny splash of brilliant color in the monochrome wall. It is a flaw. It is an imperfection in the carefully raked pattern. The gardeners will remove it tomorrow. But for now, it is there, beautiful and defiant. You look at the leaf. You think about your own life here. You are that leaf, a splash of unexpected color in a world of subtle shades and imperfection. A foreigner, something that doesn't quite belong. And yet, for a moment, in the quiet light of the afternoon, the garden seems to have made a space for you. The single red leaf doesn't ruin the composition. It completes it. It reminds you that even in a world of perfect, rigid order, there is room for the unexpected, the random, the beautiful flower. You take a deep breath, the scent of pine and damp earth filling your lungs, and you feel a sense of belonging that has nothing to do with rank or language, and everything to do with a single leaf on a sea of white stone. You are an island, in this sea of faces that are all subtly different yet uniformly Japanese. You are a continent of one, and like any island, you are an object of constant, though minus-level geological survey. You are watched, not with the open, riotous awe of the peasants, but with a quiet, professional curiosity by your new peers, the other samurai. Navigating the polished wooden hallways of the castle is like wading through a thick, invisible current of whispers and glances. Your days are filled with these silent, boring encounters. You walk down a corridor, your specially made sandals making a soft slapping sound on the wood. The samurai are approaching. They are talking, their conversation animated. They see you. The conversation stops. Instantly, as you draw level, they both bow, their bodies folding at the waist in a gesture of perfect, formal respect. Yasuke -do know. One of them murmurs, adding the honorific -do know, which marks you as a respected retainer. You nod in return, your own bow still feeling a little stiff and practiced. You pass them. The moment you're 5 steps past, the whispering begins. A low, urgent murmur. You cannot make out the words, but you can feel the intensity, the endless curiosity. Who is he? Why is he here? Did you see the size of his hands? This is the central historical reality of your social life. You are a living paradox. You are an outsider, a foreigner from an unknown land. Yet you have been granted a status and a proximity to the Lord that some of these men, from samurai families stretching back generations, can only dream of. You have leapfrogged the entire system of rank, blood, and clan affiliation that governs their world. This makes you both an object of respect because Nabugaba as well is absolute and an object of intense, hidden scrutiny. This leads to the crucial, and for you, deeply confusing, piece of Japanese social trivia, the concepts of Honmi and Tate-mei. Tate-mei is the public facade, the polite, socially acceptable behavior and opinions one displays. Honmi is one's true, private feelings. Every samurai you interact with shows you a perfect Tate-mei. They are polite, formal, and respectful, but you can feel their Honmi buzzing in the air around you. It's in the way conversations stop when you enter a room. It's in the quick, sideways glances when they think you aren't looking. It's in the way they never quite include you in their private, easy camaraderie. They are not hostile. That would be a violation of the harmony of the castle. They are simply observing, You are a fascinating, slightly unsettling puzzle they are all trying to solve. The historical debate among social historians of this period is about the depth of this resentment. Was the samurai class, known for its fierce pride and emphasis on lineage, deeply offended by your elevation? Did they see you as a pet, a toy of their eccentric lord, and not a real samurai? Or was their pragmatism and loyalty to Nobunaga strong enough to override these feelings? Some historians argue that in a time of such brutal upheaval, where merit was increasingly valued over birth, your presence might have been seen as just another sign of the changing times, strange but acceptable. Others believe that the resentment must have been profound, a silent wound to the pride of the entire warrior class, held in check only by the fear of Nobunaga's wrath. Your very existence was a challenge to their identity. You find your allies among the other outsiders. There are a handful of Jesuit priests still in Nobunaga's favor, and sometimes you share a quiet word with them in Portuguese. The sound of the language a strange comfort, like a taste of home. You also find a strange kinship with the castle's gunnery masters. They are experts in the new firearms, the arquebuses, another foreign technology that Nobunaga has enthusiastically adopted. Like you, the gunners are often men of lower birth, valued for their specific, modern skill rather than their lineage. They, too, are slightly outside the traditional samurai structure. You find you can share a quiet moment with them, cleaning the barrels of the guns. The smell of oil and black powder are common, understandable language. But most of the time, you are alone, floating in a sea of polite observation. You eat your meals in silence if Kaito is not there to translate. You stand your guard duty, feeling the weight of 100 unasked questions on your back. It is not a life of drama or conflict. It is a slow, quiet, and deeply boring process of social navigation. You are learning that in this land, the most important battles are not fought with swords, but with silence, with glances, with the space between words. You are learning to read the whispers in the hallways. The man known to all of Japan as the Demon King, a ruthless warlord who burned temple complexes and slaughtered his enemies without a flicker of remorse, has a quiet hobby. You discover this one afternoon while on guard duty outside his private chambers. There are no generals with him today, no political advisors. He is alone, and through the slightly open paper screen, you can see what he is doing. He is playing with his toys. These are his Nanban treasures, his collection of wondrous things from the world of the southern barbarians. They are laid out on a low table, a globe of the world, a pair of Venetian glass goblets, a velvet double, a leopard minus skin rug, and his favorite object of all, a large, German minus made mechanical clock. This is the mainstream historical fact about Oda Nobunaga. For all his martial ferocity, he was a passionate collector and an early adopter of Western culture. He was fascinated by the knowledge, the art, and the technology that the Portuguese ships brought to his shores. You watch him, unseen. He is completely absorbed. He picks up the globe, tracing the coast of Africa with his finger, a silent question in his eyes as he glances in your direction. He tries on a pair of eyeglasses, a recent gift from the Jesuits, and squints through them, marveling at the way they clarify the characters in a book. This is a side of your master that few ever get to see, the fearsome unifier of Japan, behaving like a curious child with a new box of toys. His greatest fascination is with the clock. This is a truly weird piece of historical trivia. The mechanical clock didn't just introduce a new object to Japan. It introduced a new way of thinking about time itself. Traditional Japanese timekeeping was fluid. The Artoki was not a fixed unit. The length of the daylight hours, from sunrise to sunset, was divided into 6 equal parts, and the same for the night. This meant that a daytime hour in the summer was much longer than a daytime hour in the winter. Time was organic, seasonal, elastic. The mechanical clock, with its steady, relentless ticking, introduced a radical concept that every hour was exactly the same length, regardless of the season or the sun. It was a rigid, mathematical, and profoundly boring way to measure the day. You watch as Nobunaga carefully winds the clock with a large brass key. He puts his ear to the wooden case, listening to the intricate whirring and ticking of the gears inside. It is the sound of a different world, a world of machines and precise and varying measurement. He is utterly captivated by it. It represents a kind of order and predictable power that even he, with all his armies, cannot impose upon the world. The sun might be early or late, but the clock will always tick the same. The historical debate among historians is about the motivation behind Nabugaba's obsession. Was it pure, boyish curiosity? Was he simply a man who loved new and shiny things? Or was it a strategic calculation? Some historians argue that Nabugaba understood that Western power was built on this kind of technical knowledge. He saw that their guns, their ships, and their navigation were all products of this mathematical, scientific worldview. By understanding their clocks and their maps, he was trying to understand the source of their power, so he could adopt it for himself. Others argue it was more personal. Nabugaba was a rebel, a man who delighted in shocking the conservative imperial court by adopting Western dress, drinking wine from a goblet, and structuring his day by a mechanical clock. He was making a powerful statement. He was declaring himself a new kind of ruler, a global ruler, not bound by the traditions of his own past. He picks up a small hand-minus mirror, another European novelty. He studies his own reflection, turning his head from side to side. He catches your eye in the reflection. You freeze, expecting a reprimand for your voyeurism, but he doesn't look angry. He beckons you into the room. He hands you the mirror. You look at your own face, something you have not done in months. Then he points to the globe, to the coast of Africa, and then back to you. He speaks, and you understand the essence of his question without needing a translator. Where? You look at the map. The shape is familiar, but the details are wrong, drawn by men who had only sailed its coasts. You don't know the answer. Your own past is a blur. You can only point to the vast, mysterious interior of the continent and give the most honest answer you can. You shake your head and say in your still halting Japanese, "Wakarimasen, I don't know." Nabugaba nods, a flicker of understanding, or perhaps disappointment, in his eyes. He takes the globe back and returns to his study of the clock. You retreat to your post outside the screen. You have just shared a quiet, strangely intimate moment with the most dangerous man in Japan. You have seen his private world, a world not of conquest and strategy, but of quiet, nerdy, and deeply boring fascination with the ticking of a clock. The first light of dawn bleeds through the paper screens of the training dojo, casting low, grey shadows on the polished wooden floor. The air is cool and still. This is where the real work is done, not on the battlefield, not in the audience hall, but here, in the cold, quiet hours of the morning. This is where you learn to be a samurai, and you learn it through the soul-crushing power of repetition. Your instructor is a weary, ageless man named Tadashi. He rarely speaks. His teaching is done through demonstration. He will perform a kata, a set sequence of sword movements, and you will copy him. There is no sparring, no opponent, just you, your sword, and the imaginary enemies you cut down, over and over and over again. This is the core, and profoundly boring, historical truth of Japanese martial arts training. The path to mastery was not through constant combat, but through the endless, perfect repetition of form. Each kata is a complete fight in miniature, containing blocks, parries, and strikes against multiple imagined foes. By practicing it thousands of times, the movements become a part of your nervous system. By passing conscious thought, you begin. The first form is simple. A step forward, a block to the left, a pivot, a downward cut, a step back, a thrust. You do it once. Tadashi shakes his head silently. Your foot was half an inch out of place. Your shoulders were too tense. The tip of your sword was too high. You do it again, and again. For an hour, you do nothing but this same 5-second sequence of movements. Your muscles begin to burn. Sweat drips from your forehead onto the floor. Your mind, starved of stimulation, begins to scream and protest. This is not the glorious combat of stories. This is the factory work of war. This tedious repetition is aimed at achieving a state that Zen philosophy calls mushin, or no mind. This is a fascinating and weird piece of mental trivia. Mushin is a state of effortless action, where the body moves without the interference of the conscious mind. There is no thought, no hesitation, no fear, no anger. There is only the pure, fluid execution of the movement. The endless, boring repetition of the kata is the tool used to scrub the mind clean, to wear down the ego until the body is free to act on its own perfect, ingrained instinct. The boredom is not a side effect of the training. It is the entire point. You move on to a longer, more complex kata. The movements are graceful, almost like a dance, but every turn is a block. Every sweep of the arm is a cut. You struggle to remember the sequence. Your large frame, so powerful in a straight line, feels clumsy and awkward in the precise, turning motions. Tadashi watches you, his face impassive. He doesn't praise you when you do it right. He simply lets you continue. He doesn't berate you when you do it wrong. He simply demonstrates the correct movement again, and you copy. The historical debate among martial arts historians is about the practical application of this kind of training. In the brutal, anything minus goes battlefields of the Sengoku period, did this highly stylized, formal kata practice actually make for a better warrior? Some argue that it was essential, creating a foundation of discipline, focus, and perfect body mechanics that could be adapted to any situation. They believe the kata trains the spirit as much as the body. Others are more skeptical, arguing that in the chaos of a real melee, with mud, blood, and screaming men, the delicate precision of a solo form was useless. They contend that practical skill sparring, battlefield experience, and a willingness to fight dirty were far more important, and that the emphasis on kata was a later development, a way to preserve the art when the wars were over. Your mind drifts. You think about the breakfast you will have. You wonder if Nobugaba will hold a council today. You're a mix. You miss a block in the sequence. Tadoshi's would unpracticed sword taps you sharply on the ribs. It doesn't hurt, but it's a stinging reminder. Your mind was not here. You are not in Mushin. You are in your own head. You bow an apology. You take your stance. You begin the kata again from the start. A block, a cut, a thrust. The sun is higher now, and the dojo is filled with light. Other samurai have filtered in, each practicing their own forms in their own silent worlds. The only sound is the swish of blades cutting the air and the soft thud of feet on wood. And then, for a brief, fleeting moment, it happens. You are halfway through the form. You are not thinking about your feet, or your hands, or the angle of your blade. You are not thinking at all. Your body is just moving. The sword feels light, an extension of your own arm. The block flows into a cut with a perfect, fluid grace. You are not fighting. You are simply moving. It lasts for maybe 2 seconds. Then the moment is gone. You are back in your own head, clumsy and conscious again. But you felt it, a flicker of no mind, a glimpse of the state of this endless, boring repetition is all for. Tadashi sees it. He gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. It is the highest praise he has ever given you. You take a deep breath, and you begin the kata again, from the top. You have become a folktale. Your life, which to you feels like a series of quiet, awkward, and boring daily routines, has been transformed in the minds of others into a legend. You are no longer just a man. You are a story that people tell, and being a story is a strange, passive, and deeply weird experience. It happens when you accompany Nobugaba on his travels. When you pass through a town, the reaction is always the same, a wave of excitement, a crush of bodies. But now, you hear the whispers. The stories have grown, embellished with each retelling. You listen, understanding more and more of the language now, and you hear the fictions they have woven around you. A mother tells her child that you have the strength of 10 men. A merchant insists to his friend that your skin is not skin at all, but polished obsidian, and that you're a mountain demon tengu that Nobugaba has tamed. A group of young boys, following you at a safe distance, dare each other to touch your shadow. They believe it will bring them good luck. This is the mainstream historical process of myth minus making. You're real. Human existence has become a canvas onto which the people of Japan are projecting their fears, their hopes, and their love of a good story. You are the black warrior, the Kyurubush eye. They don't see you. The man who struggles with chopsticks and finds, say IZA painful. They see a character. This leads to a fascinating piece of historical trivia, the sumo incident. The story, recorded in the official chronicles of Lord Nabugaba, the Shinshokoki, says that you were once made to wrestle with one of the top sumo wrestlers in the land. The story says you were so powerful, you lifted the wrestler and threw him with ease. It's presented as a testament to your incredible, almost supernatural strength. But you remember the reality. You remember being pushed into a ring. Confused, you remember the sheer, solid mass of the wrestler, a man whose body was a weapon. You remember a confusing, grappling struggle that was less about skill and more about sheer, brute force. Maybe you won, maybe you didn't. The memory is a blur of sweat and effort. But the story, the official record, has polished it into a clean, heroic, and frankly, more boring narrative of effortless victory. Your messy, human experience has been edited for public consumption. You have become a strange kind of celebrity. Children in the villages play a game called Yasuke, Ines Gokko. Yasuke, Ines pretend, where the biggest child in the group pretends to be you, the silent, imposing god. Artists and printmakers, who have only heard descriptions of you, create woodblock prints. They depict a fantastical figure with exaggerated muscles and a demonic expression, fighting giant carp or standing on a castle roof. These images are sold in the marketplace. You now exist as a mass-produced commodity, a piece of popular culture. The historical debate here among cultural historians is about your own agency in this process. Did you have any control over your own story? Did you ever try to correct the myths? To tell people that you were not a demon, that you did not have the strength of 10 men, that you were just a man? Or did you lean into the role? Did you understand, perhaps, that your power and your safety depended on this myth? By being a terrifying, semi-divine figure, you were perhaps safer than you would be as just a man. The legend was a form of armor, protecting you from the potential jealousy and resentment of the other samurai. Your silence and stoicism, born of linguistic isolation and natural temperament, might have been your most effective tool in cultivating this useful, life-saving persona. One day, you were walking through the castle town. You were off -duty, a rare luxury. You were dressed in a simple, inconspicuous kimono, hoping not to draw attention. You pass a small, open-fronted temple where a blind monk, a biwahoshi, is reciting a story to a small crowd. He accompanies himself on a lute. The biwa, he is a traveling storyteller, a living newspaper and history book for the common people. You pause in the shadows to listen, and then your blood runs cold. He is telling a story about you. He sings of a giant from the land of the Black Amoor, a man born of a thunderclap, who came across the sea to serve the great Lord Nabugaba. He sings of your wrestling match, of your great deeds, most of which you don't remember doing, of your fierce loyalty. The crowd is hanging on every word. You stand there, a silent observer of your own mythologizing. The man in the story he is telling is a grand, heroic, and exciting figure. He is everything that your quiet, boring life is not. The story is so much better than the truth. It's cleaner, simpler, more inspiring. You look at the faces in the crowd. Their eyes are wide with wonder. They love the story, and you realize, with a strange sense of resignation, that the man in the story is now more real than you are. You, the real person, will one day die and be forgotten. But the story will live on. You turn and walk away, the sound of the monk's lute and the tale of your own heroic life fading behind you. You have become a ghost in your own life, haunted by the more interesting person you are supposed to be. The night is hot and humid, typical for a Kyoto summer. You are at Hono-G, the same temple where you were first presented to Nabugaba, where you were scrubbed like a pot. The circle feels complete. Nabugaba is here with only a small retinue, a few dozen attendants on guards, including you. It's supposed to be a quiet stopover on his way to support his general, Hideyoshi. In the West, the mood is relaxed, almost lazy. The warlord who conquered half of Japan feels safe here, in the heart of his domain. It is a fatal miscalculation. You are asleep, not in a proper room, but on a mat in an antechamber, close to your lord's quarters. The dream you are having is of the sea, the endless, rocking motion of the ship. But the sound is wrong. The gentle creak of the hull is replaced by a sharp, crackling roar. The smell of salt is replaced by the thick, acrid smell of smoke. You wake up with a jolt. The dream was real. The temple is on fire. The hours are choking, swirling chaos of smoke and embers. Shouts and screams echo through the wooden corridors. It is not the organized, disciplined sound of a battle. It is the sound of panic, of a complete and terrifying surprise. This is the Hono-G incident, one of the most famous and pivotal betrayals in Japanese history. It is not a heroic, cinematic battle. For you, inside it is a confusing, sensory nightmare. Your training takes over. Your only thought is protect the Lord. You grab your swords and run towards Nobubaba's chambers, your lungs burning with every breath. The paper walls are dissolving into flame. The heat is immense, a physical blow. You can hear the sounds of fighting now, the sharp clash of steel, the guttural cries of men, but you can't see the enemy. You can only see shadows moving in the smoke, silhouettes against the orange glare. You and a handful of other guards from a small, desperate circle around Nobugaba's chambers. The attackers are pouring into the courtyard. You finally see their banners, the bellflower crest of Akekimitsu Hide, one of Nobugaba's most trusted generals. It is a betrayal from within, an impossible, unthinkable act. This is the central historical event of your samurai life. You are a direct participant in the final, fiery moments of the man who remade Japan. You fight. You are not the mythical warrior from the stories now. You are a desperate man in a burning building. There is no clean kata, no elegant swordsmanship. It is a brutal, clumsy, ugly business. You swing your katana, the heavy blade feeling clumsy in the confined space. You block a spear thrust. You push a man back, his face a terrifying mask in the firelight. It is a fight for survival, for inches of ground. This moment contains a small but poignant piece of historical trivia. According to one account from a Jesuit priest, you fought with the ferocity of a berserker, defending your lord to the last. But what does that really mean? In the chaos, the smoke, and the terror, you were likely fighting with the pure, adrenalized instinct of a cornered animal. Your bravery was simply the logical response to a situation where the only other option was to stand still and be killed. The battle is hopeless. You are outnumbered 100-1. The Akeiki forces are a disciplined army. You are a handful of household gods. The end is coming, and everyone knows it. Then, the fighting near Nobugaba's chambers stops. The entrance is blocked by flames. You hear a voice from within your lord's voice, calm and steady. He is committing seppuku, the ritual suicide of a samurai, to avoid the disgrace of capture. He has chosen his own end. Your duty, your entire purpose for being in this country, has just vanished in a cloud of smoke and ash. The historical debate surrounding this incident is immense. Why did Akekimitsu Mitsuhide betray his master? Was it a personal insult? A long minus-held grudge? Was it a desperate bid for his own power? Was he a pawn in a larger conspiracy involving the emperor or other rival lords? Historians have argued for centuries, and the truth remains buried with the ashes of the temple. For you, the reason does not matter. The only thing that matters is the result. Your lord is dead, and you are surrounded. The fire rages. The roof begins to collapse. The remaining guards, their purpose gone, are cut down or surrender. You are pushed back by the heat. Your kimono singed, your face black with sweat. An Akeiki samurai, his own face a mask of exhaustion and shock, points his spear at your throat. There is no anger in his eyes, just a weary sense of duty. You drop your sword. It clatters on the stone paving. There is nothing left to fight for. You have failed. The Demon King is dead. The great unifier of Japan is a pile of ash in a burning temple. And you, his strange, foreign samurai, are a prisoner of the traitor who lit the match. The night of fire and smoke is over. The quiet, uncertain morning is about to begin. The dawn is grey and smudged with smoke. The ferocious roar of the fire has died down to a sullen, crackling hiss. The Hana-G temple is a ruin, a skeleton of blackened beams and smoking rubble. The air stinks of burnt wood and death. You are sitting on the ground in the temple's outer courtyard, your hands bound behind your back. You are a captive. Around you are the triumphant soldiers of the Eki clan. They are exhausted, their armor streaked with soot, their faces grim. The adrenaline of the night attack has worn off, leaving behind a heavy, uncertain silence. They have done the unthinkable. They have killed the titan of their age, and now they don't seem to know what to do next. They look at you, the strange, giant survivor of Nobugaba's last stand, with a mixture of awe and confusion. You are a loose end, a piece of the old regime that needs to be dealt with. You fully expect to die. You have seen how this world works. The followers of a defeated lord are executed. It is the logical, honorable conclusion. You have failed in your duty to protect your master, and now you will pay the price. You close your eyes, utterly calm. You have lived a life more strange than any you could have imagined. This is simply the final, strange chapter. An officer approaches. He looks at you, then speaks to his men. You are to be brought before Lord Dekimitsu Hyde himself. You are pulled to your feet and marched through the chaotic streets of Kyoto to another temple, where the traitor has set up his temporary headquarters. You are brought into a room. Dekimitsu Hyde is there. He is a man you have seen before in Nobugaba's court, a cultured and intelligent general, known for his skill as a poet as much as his skill as a commander. He looks tired. The weight of his monumental act seems to be settling on him. He looks at you, the black samurai, the living symbol of his former master's eccentricities. He speaks, and what he says is the single most important and most debated moment of your post-Nobugaba life. This is the central historical fact, recorded in the chronicles of the time. The officer asks what should be done with you. Should you be executed? His reply is unexpected. He looks at you not as a warrior, but as something other. According to the historical record, he says that you are not a real Japanese. You are a beast, an animal kidemono, and since you are not a man, you do not understand the codes of honor and reason. Therefore, you are not responsible for your loyalty to Nobugaba. You are blameless. He orders that you not be killed. Instead, you are to be taken to the Namban Monastery, the temple of the southern barbarians, the Jesuit church, and handed back to the black robed priests from whence you came. This judgment is a fascinating, unprofoundly weird piece of historical trivia. Aikaki spares your life by dehumanizing you. He saves you by declaring you a thoughtless animal. It is an act of mercy delivered as a profound insult. He is not pardoning a samurai. He is releasing a pet. The historical debate around this moment is intense. What was Akeisi's real motivation? Was he truly acting out of a racist belief that you were subhuman and therefore not worthy of a samurai's death? Or was this a clever political move? By sending you to the Jesuits, he might have been trying to curry favor with the powerful Portuguese traders and their supply of firearms, which you would desperately need in the coming war against Nobugaba as other loyal generals. Was it an act of contempt, or an act of shrewd diplomacy disguised as contempt? Furthermore, what did he mean by beast? Some historians argue that he was not necessarily being malicious. In the context of Buddhist philosophy, an animal is a creature that acts on instinct, not on the complex web of duty and onigiri that defines a human being in Japanese society. He may have been placing you outside the moral framework of his world, thereby absolving you of any crime. It was a philosophical loophole that saved your life. You are led away. You do not feel safe. You feel erased. Your identity, so painstakingly constructed your status as a samurai, your loyalty, your service has been wiped away with a single word. You are not Yasuke minus to know, retainer of the great Oda Nobugaba. You are a beast, being returned to your keepers. You are brought to the Jesuit mission. The priests are shocked to see you. They had assumed you were dead. They take you in, cut your buns, and give you water. You are back where you started, in a small, quiet room in a compound run by black robed men. Your life as a samurai is over. It lasted for a little over a year. It was a brief, desire, and fiery dream. You took on the soul of a warrior. And then a poet general declared that you had no soul at all. You have been spared, but you have been stripped of the only identity you have known in this land. You are no longer a legend, a warrior, or even a man. You are just Yasuke again, a survivor, a strange souvenir from a dead king's court, and you have no idea what you are supposed to do now. The world shrinks back to a size you can understand. The sprawling, magnificent stage of A's Uchi Castle is gone, replaced by the quiet, familiar confines of the Jesuit mission in Kyoto. The scent of incense and beeswax replaces the smell of steel and horse. The language spoken around you is once again the familiar, guttural Portuguese of the priests, a sound that feels both comforting and alien after a year of speaking Japanese. You have returned to the world you came from, but you are not the same man who left it. Your days become simple, quiet, and profoundly, blessedly boring. The high-stakes political drama of Nobugaba's court, the constant vigilance of the bodyguard, the brutal discipline of the dojo, it all melts away. Your new routine is one of gentle, repetitive tasks. You help the priests tend their small vegetable garden. You sweep the wooden floors of the chapel. You accompany them on their rounds in the city. Your imposing presence still a useful deterrent against trouble. But the nature of the threat is now a common street thief, not a clan of assassins. This is a period of your life that history barely records. The official chronicles were concerned with the Great War that followed Nobugaba's death, the struggle for power between his generals Hideyoshi, Takugosha, and the short-lived Hekimitsu Hyde was the story of the age. You were a footnote in the previous chapter, and now you have vanished from the main text entirely. This quiet, peaceful interlude is your own private history. You are, in a sense, in recovery, not just from the terror of the Hono-G incident, but from the sheer strangeness of the life you lead. You had become a character in a grand play, and now the play is over. You have to learn how to be just a person. The priests treat you with a kindness that is mixed with a new kind of awe. You are the man who was there, the man who saw the end of an era. They ask you questions, and you answer in your slow, careful Japanese, which they now listen to with fascinated attention. You are their primary source, their eyewitness to history. This return to a familiar world provides a piece of quiet. Internal trivia, the phantom pains of a life no longer live. You wake up in the pre-dawn hours, your body instinctively ready for the grueling routine of the dojo, only to realize you can stay in your bed. You catch yourself walking with your hand resting on your hip, where your swords used to be, and feel a pang of absence. The weight is gone, and you feel lighter, but also strangely unbalanced. You find yourself scanning every room you enter, assessing threats, a habit that is now completely unnecessary. You have the muscle memory of a samurai, but you no longer have the job. You spend a lot of time in the mission's library. You cannot read the dense Latin or Portuguese texts, but you like the silence, the smell of old paper and leather. You look at the maps, the same ones Valangano showed you on the ship. You trace the shape of Japan, this strange, violent, beautiful country that adopted you and then discarded you. You trace the coast of Africa, the continent that is a ghost in your own memory. You are a man caught between two worlds, fully belonging to neither. The historical debate here is a speculative one, as the records are so sparse. What was your ultimate fate? After the chaos of the succession wars subsided and the country was reunified under Toyotomi Hideyoshi, did you remain in Japan, or did you eventually leave with the Jesuits, perhaps returning to their missions in Macau or Goa? The historical consensus, based on the lack of any further mention of you in Japanese records, is that you most likely did leave Japan. Your story in that land was inextricably tied to Nabugaba, and with him gone, your purpose there was finished. But for now, you are here, in this quiet sanctuary. One afternoon, a young priest is trying to learn Japanese. He is struggling, his tongue tripping over the unfamiliar sounds. He asks for your help. He points to a cup. Kapu, you say, giving him the Japanese word, which was itself borrowed from the Portuguese copa. He repeats it, mangling the pronunciation. You correct him, gently. In this moment, a strange reversal has occurred. When you arrive, you are the student, the silent, awkward man learning the words for rice and water. Now, you are the teacher. You are the one who understands this place, who can navigate its language and customs. You are the veteran. You have found a new, quiet purpose to be a bridge, to be the one who can explain this world to the newcomers who will follow. It is not a glorious purpose. It will not be recorded in any chronicle. There are no swords, no honor, no rank. It is a simple, useful, and deeply boring job. And after the fire and the chaos and the dizzying heights of the life you have led, the boredom is the most wonderful gift you could possibly imagine. It is a gift of peace. The next chapter of your life, if you indeed remained in Japan, would have been written in a place like Nagasaki, not the grand, political stage of Kyoto, but a bustling, practical, and profoundly multicultural port city. After the chaos of Nobunaga's fall and the subsequent consolidation of power, Japan's relationship with the outside world became more structured, and Nagasaki was its primary, carefully controlled window. For you, it would have been a return to a world of ships, trade, and intersecting cultures, a world you understood. Let's imagine you there. Your life is no longer tied to a single, powerful lord, but to the rhythms of the port, the arrival of the great black ship. The Portuguese Korak, once a year from Macau, is the central event that punctuates the calendar. Its appearance on the horizon signals a flurry of activity, a surge of wealth, and a fresh influx of news and strange goods from the world beyond. You, with your knowledge of both the Japanese and the Portuguese worlds, would have been an invaluable asset. This is a plausible, though not definitively proven, historical trajectory for your life. Men with your unique skills as an interpreter, a cultural go-minus between, and a god were in high demand in the trading enclaves. You would have been employed not by a warlord, but by a merchant guild, or perhaps even found your way back into the official service of the Jesuits as a high-level domo, a manager of their local affairs. Your days are no longer boring because of silent, motionless waiting, but because of the predictable, repetitive cycle of commerce. You watch the cargo being unloaded, silks and porcelain from China, spices from the Indies, and European goods like wine, velvet, and, of course, firearms. You help negotiate the prices. Your Japanese now fluent and nuanced, your Portuguese a comforting echo of your past. You can haggle with a Japanese customs official in the morning and discipline a drunken Portuguese sailor in the afternoon. You are a man of two worlds, and here, in this port city, that makes you not a curiosity, but a professional. You live in a small house in the part of the city where the foreigners are permitted to reside. It's a hybrid architecture, part Japanese with its tatami mats and sliding screens, part Portuguese with a solid bed and a heavy wooden table and chairs. Your diet is a mixture to Japanese rice and fish one day, a hearty stew with bread baked in the Portuguese style the next. This fusion life is a quiet and specific piece of historical trivia, the reality for the small community of expatriates who made their lives at the edge of the Japanese world. You are still a giant, still a man with black skin, but here in Nagasaki, you are no longer a complete anomaly. The port is filled with people from all over the world, Portuguese traders, Chinese merchants, sailors from Goa and Malacca, and a growing community of mixed-race children. You are still unique, but you are part of a diverse tapestry. You are no longer a living myth. You are just Yasuke, a factor for the silk trade, a man known for being fair but firm. The historical debate among academics focusing on this period is about the level of freedom and autonomy that individuals like you could achieve. Was Nagasaki a true melting pot, a place where a man could escape the rigid social hierarchies of both feudal Japan and colonial Europe? Or was it just a different kind of cage? A gilded ghetto where foreigners were tolerated for their economic utility, but never truly accepted as part of the social fabric. The existence of restrictive regulations on where foreigners could live and travel suggests the latter. Yet, the personal accounts of some traders and missionaries speak of a surprising degree of freedom and the formation of genuine, lasting relationships with the local Japanese. Your life here would have been lived in that grey area, a life of conditional freedom. One evening, you are sitting on the veranda of your house, looking out over the harbor. The lights of the ships twinkle in the water. The air carries 100 smells, the salt of the sea, the scent of sandalwood from a warehouse, the aroma of noodles from a nearby food stall. You hear a dozen languages being spoken in the street below. A young Japanese boy, the son of a merchant you work with, comes to you with a book. It's a popular collection of war tales, stories of the great heroes of the last generation. He has found a story he wants you to read to him. He points to a woodblock illustration. It depicts a giant, dark-skinned warrior standing beside a fearsome lord. The story is titled The Tale of the Black Warrior of Oden Abugaba. You look at the picture, a fantastical caricature of a man you used to be. You look at the boy's eager, upturned face. You take the book, and in a calm, steady voice, you begin to read the legend of your own past to a new generation. You read of your great strength, your fierce loyalty, your dramatic battles. You feel a strange sense of detachment, as if you were reading about someone else entirely. And in a way, you are. The samurai in the book is a simple, heroic character. Your real life was so much more complex, so much more boring, so much more human. The boy listens, enthralled. To him, you are not the man who spends his days checking manifests and arguing about the price of raw silk. You are the man from the story. You finish the chapter. The boy sighs with happiness. You smile, hand him back the book, and watch him run off to dream of heroic deeds. You are no longer the subject of the legend. You are now its narrator. And in this quiet, peaceful, and wonderfully boring life, you have found the perfect final role to play. The story begins to separate from you, like a boat pushing off from a dock. It has its own life now, its own momentum, and it sails on without you. You, the man, remain on the shore, living your quiet, ordinary life, while your legend, Yasuke the Black Warrior, adventures on in the popular imagination. You have become two separate beings. You encounter your other self often. You see him in the crude woodblock prints for sale in the market. His skin an impossible lacquer, minus black. His eyes glowing white. His hand gripping a sword as long as a man is tall. You hear him in the songs of the blind Biwahashi who sometimes pass through Nagasaki. Their ballads now including a verse or two about the strange, giant retainer of the great Lord Nabugaba. Your name, or at least his name, has become a small but permanent part of the grand, bloody tapestry of the Sengoku period. This process, the transformation of a living person into a historical or legendary figure, is a key concept in understanding public memory. Your story, as it's told, is stripped of all its boring, human details. No one tells a story about you struggling to learn Japanese, or feeling awkward in a kimono, or finding peace in a quiet garden. They tell the story of the fight, the betrayal, the loyalty. The legend is a highlight reel, and your actual life was the long, unedited footage. You are now, let's imagine, an older man. Your hair is flecked with grey. Your great strength has softened into the solid bulk of middle age. You are a respected figure in the Nagasaki trading community, known for your calm demeanor and your deep knowledge of two cultures. Your life is a predictable, peaceful rhythm of ships arriving on ships departing. It is wonderfully satisfied Jidal. One day, a young Jesuit priest, newly arrived from Europe, seeks you out. He is a historian, tasked with compiling a definitive account of the Jesuit mission in Japan. He has heard the stories about you, and he has read the old reports from Father Valingano. He wants to hear the truth from the source. He wants to know what it was really like to be the samurai of Oden Abugaba. This interview is a beautiful piece of imagined trivia, a moment where your lived experience and your public legend finally meet. You invite him into your house. You serve him tea, not the bitter, ceremonial matcha of the court, but a simple, pleasant green tea, served in a plain cup. He asks his questions, his pen poised over his notebook. Is it true you defeated a sumo wrestler with one hand? Did you really fight off 20 men at Hano-G? What was it like to stand beside the great Nobugoba? You look at the young priest's eager face. You could tell him the stories. You could give him the legend he wants to hear. That would be easy, but you choose not to. You tell him about the border. You tell him about the long, silent hours of standing guard, studying the patterns in the wood grain. You tell him about the agony of sitting Seizuye,